And welcome to another episode of the It's Just a Hill Cycling Podcast. I am Jon Stenning, and I am here with BSP. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good. How are you, John?
Good, thank you. This is a show where we talk about bikes. It's Just a Hill Cycling Podcast. But first, I want to talk about Scotland a little bit. You went to Scotland.
Yeah.
And I feel like it looked like a lot of fun. And you want to give me a couple of highlights real quick? Most people, they might not come here for a Scotland recap, but I don't care. I want to hear a little bit of something. You got a highlight. You got. Did you ride it all?
I did. One day we rented e-bikes.
E-bikes, right?
Yeah.
How was that? What was that experience like?
It was great. First time ever.
Shop.
Like a bike shop?
Yeah.
No. It was literally just like a shed kind of situation where I paid them online and they gave me a lockbox code. Okay. And then I opened up this like tented shed area.
Yep.
And took the bikes out.
Yeah.
And
rode them around for how long?
Best. I had them for 3 hours.
3 hours.
And then returned them and the guy said, make sure you're back on time because the codes won't work after your time frame.
Oh.
And I got back like on the minute that it expired and it didn't work. So then I was like waiting around and like trying to get a hold of him
in order to just return
just to drop the bikes back in the thing. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. But yeah, it was cool. It was my first time riding an e-bike, and I guess it felt exactly the way I expected it to.
There is a good percentage of e-bike haters, and I think that sucks.
That there's haters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're extremely useful for people who need them or want them.
Yeah, here's a good trick. You don't like them? Just don't buy them.
Yeah, don't use it.
Yeah, just don't
Save yourself money and don't buy them.
And then just shut the hell up and ride your own friggin' bike.
Yeah, but that was cool. That day overall was a significant highlight to the trip.
Yeah.
But the trip was absolutely fantastic. Thank you for asking about it.
Oh, you're welcome. It looked like fun.
We mainly...
I loved seeing all the photos. So many great photos.
Thanks.
So many.
I was worried about annoying people, but then I was like, nah, you know what? Screw that. I don't care. I'm going to keep uploading and pointing at shit. And if people don't want to see it, they don't have to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trip was absolutely incredible. The trip was stemmed mostly because my wife and some friends got tickets to see Taylor Swift in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I did not go to the concert, but I had like an amazing solo day.
That day was a solo day for you.
Yeah, solo day for me, aside from in the morning going to the Johnny Walker experience with my friend who went to the concert with my wife and his wife.
Yeah.
But that day was incredible. I just walked around Edinburgh all day and went to another 2 different whiskey tastings.
Oh, cool.
And it was just a great day. But I mean, general highlights were, went to like multiple castles, 3 or 4 castles.
Yep. You saw a very fun owl, I think. The best picture I saw.
Oh, yeah, the owls. Yeah,
this owl looked like it had a lot of character. You posted pictures of multiple birds, but one was an owl with like, it looked like it had a mustache and like old man eyebrows.
Yeah.
And it was just, I just loved that.
It was a female bird.
Did I gender the bird? I said.
You said it looked like an old man, but I was just gonna say like fun fact.
Fun fact.
It was a female that looked like an old man human.
A female owl that looked like old human man.
Yeah, that bird was awesome. It was super content just to like sit there on our hand. And
what are those things? So you went to like an aviary? What the hell is it called?
Yeah, like a falconry.
There it is.
Center,
that's the word I was looking for.
It was actually just a family that lives up in the Highlands, like in farmland area, and it was at their house.
Yeah, and they're just
we were just like
experts.
standing in their backyard next to their drying laundry in the backyard, and then there's next to the laundry there was a bunch of falcons on, little posts like sunning themselves and stuff, and that's what that family does is they use them for pest control, the birds for pest control and overall what you call education, and the mother of the family does a lot of school visits and things like that, and they have people come to the house and
sounds like you're like
pay for private.
You're like a spokesperson for them now.
I mean, yeah, it would.
They should start paying you.
It was fantastic. It was very cool, very cool,
neat.
and they were super nice. And then afterwards, we had like little cake and coffee together and just talked about non-bird things. And
of course,
it was cool. It was cool. But then the other I would say 2 other highlights. just overall were going to distilleries.
Uh-huh.
And I told you ahead of time, one morning I remember I said, just be prepared to see me standing in front of a lot of distilleries.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
And then the other highlight actually was just driving.
Oh, yeah?
Drove like all around the country.
Yeah.
And
That's neat.
yes, it was tough at first because it's on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
But actually driving on the left side of the road was not the hard part. I found the hardest thing about it was being on the right side of the car, inside the car.
Oh,
so
yeah.
just spatially, everything was
weird.
so different. Like worrying about
you're turning,
a whole car to your left
now.
versus the whole car to your right.
You got to look right first when you cross the street.
Yeah, crossing the street actually was surprisingly hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
And even though I've been to England before, but that was a long time ago, so I didn't really remember that. But yeah, crossing the road in the cities was challenging at first.
All right, one more quick question. Yeah. Cycling infrastructure, was it present? Was it really good? Did you notice any of it? What was the cycling infrastructure like?
I did notice it, and it was good.
It seemed good?
Yes.
A lot of people on bikes, or?
Yeah, definitely a lot of people on bikes.
Yeah.
And people were very respectful of the bikers.
Yeah.
And the same as like road signage over there, where they have everything also painted on the ground.
Yeah.
And really, they do a really good job of painting the ground and keeping that updated. It was the same for all the bike lanes.
Yeah.
And bike signals, and even like in the UK, the traffic lights go and when they're red, they go to yellow first before they go to green.
No, I didn't know that. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, it's a fun fact.
That's a fun fact. You telling me that the owl was a female wasn't really a fun fact. That was.
Okay.
That's a fun fact.
That's a fun fact. And I believe the reason for that, now I could be wrong, but at least one of the reasons, what I had learned ahead of time, was that is because historically, basically everybody just drove stick shift over there. So you have that first so that you can do the clutch and get into gear, and then you go.
Right.
But also in very populated areas, they also had a separate light. They have a separate waiting area in front of the cars for bikes
I've
that
seen
cars
this.
should stay out of.
And
then even before the driving traffic signal goes yellow and then green, they even have a green bicycle light.
Wow.
So the bikes can, stand up,
first,
get going, and then the cars can go. So the cars aren't just like immediately waiting for a cyclist to clip in or something.
Sounds great.
And that was great.
That is lovely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lovely. That
is
the whole
lovely.
Trip, fucking lovely.
Yeah. Nice.
Highly recommend if anybody's considering it.
Nice.
You should go.
All right. Let's talk about bikes a little bit more. I don't really want to. I don't know what I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about the tour, which is right around the corner. We're going to talk about Unchained, which I think have you watched all of it?
I did. I finished it today, actually.
But first, let's talk about, so like I work for NBX now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm their social media manager. I feel like it's nice to just like put it out there.
Yeah.
NBX is the official like bike shop of It's Just a Hill.
Everything's official now.
Everything is official.
It's out in the world.
I've crossed all the T's.
It's been rolled out.
I've dotted all the I's.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I don't think I deserve congratulations, but thank you. It's nice of you to say. That being said, there's going to be more NBX sort of It's Just a Hill type of stuff, right? We're actually going to go to the shop ride after this record, if all goes according to plan.
Yep.
And I am going to be like reviewing stuff for them. There's like a new Madone that was just released officially today or announced officially today. Hopefully I'm going to get to test ride one of those
I haven't seen it.
and do a review. There's no more Amanda. It's the Madone and the Amanda together, but it's just called a Madone. It's the Gen 8 Madone, but Trek have put the Amanda to bed officially.
Really?
Yep. And this is a stiff aero climbing fast bike, but they're still calling it the Madone. They didn't decide on another name.
Really?
But
so are they going ahead with the Domani?
I think so. Yeah. So about 6 months ago, after actually bigger picture Trek wise, announced that they were going to drop a bunch of SKUs. They were like losing 40% of the SKUs that they have out on the market in terms of bikes, and people were speculating what that was going to mean, if they were going to offer less sizes or less colorways. Well, it turns out one of the ways that they are diminishing their SKUs like out in the marketplace, SKU, right? Like a barcode, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a different barcode for every item.
Yeah.
And they have scrapped the Amanda line. So production-wise, they will no longer be producing an Amanda, at least for now. It's just a Madone, and it's lighter, but it's also still aero, and it has the speed hole in it and all that stuff. And yeah, I wouldn't say that necessarily like I was. No, maybe I was. I was a Trek hater. I think it stemmed from being a Lance hater, and sort of what my perception was of Trek in like the American market. Since I've learned a little bit about the CEO of Trek, he seems pretty cool. I don't know him personally, obviously, and he's also like the CEO of a multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar company. So honestly, we're not boys, you know what I mean? But like,
but you did at one point give me a little bit more of a rundown on the pod, within this past year, just sort of a little bit more history about Trek as the brand, and which I didn't really know any of, and even just hearing that made me feel better about Trek. But me personally, I also was never really a huge Trek fan, but for me, it just stemmed from I didn't really love the shape of the frames.
Yeah, I don't love that big Trek. I don't know. I also feel like sometimes I'm too counterculture. There's so many fucking Treks. You know what I mean? You see them everywhere, right? Like
a lot of Treks, a lot of Specialized.
A lot of Treks, a lot of Specialized. I kind of steer away from those two brands because I see they're great bikes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
If I had to pick from one of the two, I would say 2 years ago I'd pick Specialized. I think now I'd pick Trek. But also I'm biased. NBX is a Trek shop. Like I said, they're gonna let me like ride and review this bike. You know what I mean? So like there is a little bit of like I'm not gonna get to ride the new SL8 for free. You know what I mean? Right. But yeah, I still think I prefer other brands. I'm not going to be like selling my Cervelo or anything, you know what I mean? But I do think it's funny because we're going to talk about the Varia in a little bit, and with just a second, essentially. And I think like someone might say like, "Oh, John, like you've told me you hated Trek," and like, yeah, that's probably true. And I said that at one point, but like, isn't it also good to like change your mind? Like, I have a Varia taillight, radar, with the one with the camera. I recently got it from NBX with the camera. And I'm going to be doing a full review on it. But 2 people, since I've put that on my bike, have said to me, "Wow, John, I thought you were like an anti-light guy." And I was like, first of all, why do I have this? That's my reputation. Like, that's what you remember about me, is that I'm an anti-light guy. And like, I'm also... I
wonder why they even thought that, though.
Because I don't think...
You don't always ride with a light on your bike.
No.
But since I've known you have at times.
Yeah. My biggest issue with lights on bikes is the aesthetic. Right. And I know it's vain as hell, but I think it can ruin the silhouette of the
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you have always said that.
I think like the silhouette of a bike is very important to me. As this bike sits here, I think bikes are beautiful. Yeah. Right? I think certain bikes look more appealing to me than others in just a purely aesthetic way.
Absolutely. Of course.
A light that's like strapped on at a weird place on the seat tube or like underneath the saddle. Like, I just got a new mount for the Varia after just using the Garmin one for like the first week. I ordered one on Etsy that's 3D printed. I thought I was going to like love it. I kind of like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll break it down more in the other video, but I guess the reason to talk about the Varia is because you also mentioned, and this was something that I did share on the NBX Instagram, that there is a new Trek thing called the car back taillight.
Yeah.
And like, and it shows you left and right as well. So not only does it notify you of a car behind you, but it's gonna like notify you when the car is passing you and like how close it is as it passes you. It seems. Like the Varia does not do that.
No,
the Varia
just shows them coming up on you. Right. You don't know if they're right behind you or way to the left or whatever.
Right. And generally, we want like 3 or 4 feet. Certain states have certain laws.
Yeah, Mass is up to
4 feet now, right? And Connecticut is 3. Yeah. Rhode Island has 0. So
Rhode Island doesn't have the law at all.
Thanks,
right?
Rhode Island. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Actually, I think in the UK it might be like they might have said 5 feet.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Not that it,
but anyway,
I mean, it just like
so that car back thing.
Yeah,
is this a new update to their product, or did they not have?
No, this was
at
never.
all?
This is a brand new thing.
Okay, because I'd heard something on a different podcast maybe recently
really?
about something called car back, and I didn't realize it was from.
Oh, okay.
Trek.
This is the first time I've ever heard of this product, so to me it seemed new.
But it was only very recently that I heard this too. But
Right.
I was like, oh, I never heard of that. I assumed it was just something I didn't
Right.
know about. And
It is a
wasn't-
unit that sits behind your saddle
Yeah.
and it alerts you. It seems to
Interesting.
be a little bit bigger than the standard Varia. The Varia that I have with the camera is thicker than the one that like you
Right.
run
without
the camera. I have heard a lot of good things about the Varia from you, from Adam, from Ryan, people that I ride with a lot.
Yeah.
And so like, over the course of the past 2 years of me being like, I never want a Varia, I've been convinced otherwise. I also like think just for the purposes of like using it and reviewing it and having the camera on there for me is like the absolute icing on the cake, because like if a car does close past me,
Yeah.
I can then show that to other people to explain to maybe non-cyclists like how dangerous it actually is, like the awareness of
Yeah.
how vulnerable we can be, which is something that I think at times we've talked about ad nauseum on this show. But to me, that's a big thing, and that's the main reason why I'm gonna run. I am running that thing, so I can like I've had one close pass, and I can read their license plate clear as day.
Yeah.
And I might not remember it like MacGruber levels where I'm writing it down in a notebook over and over again, but I do have the screenshot saved, and I can recall what the back of that car looks like with the bumper stickers and stuff. And let's just say it was similar to one bumper sticker that used to be on here.
Gotcha.
But still too early for me to like fully review it. But
Sure.
I do think like having a Varia is worth talking about. I mean, it's a very popular thing. Safety is very important. And so I guess I will be talking about it more in the near future.
I think, first off, definitely looking forward to seeing your review on it.
Oh, thanks.
But I think in one of the recent 2 episodes when we were talking about like driving and riding etiquette and rules of the road, whatever, I had mentioned maybe drivers should know that radar is a thing now for cyclists, but
Sure.
I can't remember if I did take that statement back.
Yeah.
But I absolutely don't think that drivers should be just assuming that cyclists now have radar and know that they're there.
No, they should know.
I don't think that they should know that, because then they're going to start assuming everybody knows that they're there, and then start making bad passes or something like that. So, if there was anyone out there, that
But what
listened
about
to me
if they
say that,
knew-
were like, no, I don't agree, I take it back.
What about if they knew you had a camera back there? Because I will say, and this is purely
that is different.
This is purely like speculative, and I haven't done any actual tests on this, but when I wear my still camera, just my Fuji stills camera that I carry around with me, when I wear it on my back, cars treat me with more respect.
Oh yeah?
Because they might not know that they see a camera pointed at them.
Yeah, maybe it's just
I don't
filming.
know if I'm just like in my head and I'm making this up. I don't think I am. I have noticed that cars have been more delicate when I am wearing a camera on my back. And that camera isn't capturing anything.
Right.
But
they don't know that.
There's like a psychological thing there. Like if people know they're being watched, right? Or if they think they're being watched, right? It's like when people put up like I have security cameras at my house, signs, when they don't even have them, but they think it still deters theft or break-ins because like just the notion of cameras being there, so I don't know. Maybe we should all just start running cameras. And I don't know. I feel like that's the reason I want to do it, so I can just like put it out there more. And like sometimes I feel like when I'm explaining situations like a crazy person. I'm like trying to explain to just like civilians about, oh, this car came so close to me. I feel like most of the time they're like, whatever, Like a car, I don't know if you saw this, but a car like came right at me on the road the other day.
No.
A car came right at me on the road the other day. I was riding my bike. I honestly, I feel so like still shooken up by this. I'm not like shooken up by many things. I don't really think that way. We were kind of talking about that off podcast before we started recording. I was on Shannock Hill Road going west after the downhill. There's a spot where the road kind of has some potholes right on the white line. Yeah. And so I was towards the yellow line. Not like I was in the middle of my own lane. There was a Mercedes or a BMW, like a nice black car coming the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And as I came left, slightly left towards the middle, they came over the yellow line right at me. I don't think they noticed. I think that the person that was driving was not paying attention. And I think the passenger yelled and caused the driver at like the last second to swerve out of the way. I missed this car coming at me. We were both doing 30 miles an hour at least. I missed this car by less than 2 feet. Jeez. I still had to swerve to the right. For the next like 5 minutes was like in shock.
Yeah.
Like I didn't stop riding. I immediately like stopped doing any intervals that I was doing. I think I looked over my shoulder like 5 times before I got to the next intersection just to be like, did that really happen? There's still part of me that like questions whether or not it really happened, but like I'm certain that it did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never felt like I've cheated death before on the bike.
Yeah, that's
right, because cycling is a calculated risk. And I've even thought like, is it worth sharing this story? Because I don't have video footage. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to actually back it up. Like, I'm sure you believe me. I mean, it happened. You know?
Yeah.
But it was like,
that's scary as hell.
I saw this car. I was in the middle of their bumper. You know what I mean? I wasn't lined up with their mirror. I was in the middle of their bumper, and they were like within 5 feet of me before they started to move. And it was like, holy shit.
I had a pretty similar experience.
It's wild.
Right near my house where the road is on both sides of the road, like where it's always basically, I think that stretch of road is always in shade. And so in the winter, it must freeze over a lot with the puddles, and the worse it gets, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
And, I don't think we probably weren't going quite that fast, but there was a car, like I was kind of in the middle of the road to try to take
the right line.
A bit more of a, less shaky line. Yeah. And I think they were also, as you do, try to avoid potholes, and we were coming like right at each other, but it was just like, I don't know if they just didn't see me or if they just didn't care, but it doesn't sound like it was as close as yours, but I remember just being like,
it's wild.
Are you just gonna hit me as a cyclist head on? Am I gonna fly over your windshield?
That's kind of what I thought.
Because you don't want to hit a shallow pothole with your car. Like, just get in your lane. I was in my lane.
Yeah, I don't know what this person was doing. I feel like they just weren't paying attention. There's no way that they were like driving right at me. That would be absolutely absurd.
Well, I mean, I could see someone if they, in the way that kind of people probably just like kind of fuck around.
Yeah.
And like.
You're on a back road.
Get close to people just for the fun of it to scare us, which people do.
I can't speculate on that.
But like, I could see that. I mean? Like, if you kind of were getting in the middle of the lane, they were like, "Oh, what's this guy doing? I'm gonna kind of do it too," just like as a joke, even though bad fucking joke. But
I don't.
Damn, that's scary, man. Sorry.
Oh no, whatever. I'm alive. But it is just like still like holy shit. But anyway, we're crunched for time, so who gives a fuck? I'm alive, and the tour's right around the corner. Let's talk about
the tour.
Let's talk about 2 things real quick. First, let's talk about we are now amateurs talking pros. If we had a little interstitial, it would go right here for like breaking news. Amateurs talking pros starting. Unchained season 2. It's out on Netflix. We both watched it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it real quick. I actually want to go to the last thing that you wrote down here. A lot better than season 1?
Question mark.
Question mark? What are your thoughts on that? Was it better than season 1?
I want to say that it was better than season 1. But it's one of those scenarios where it's just like, well, going into season 1, did I just have like really high hopes?
Yeah.
And didn't know what it was going to be. But then now for the second season, it's like, well, we kind of know what this platform is going to be like.
I think you nailed it right
We know what the setup's going to be. We know the vibe.
Yeah. We know they're going to make things dramatic.
We weren't expecting a lot.
Yeah.
But I do actually think they went about it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I feel like they probably got negative criticism from the first season. And I think they went about it a little bit differently, where I feel like the first season was a little bit more of like the race oriented and going stage by stage.
Sure.
And
this was more story
in
arc
regards
oriented.
to that.
Yeah.
I think they did an absolutely horrible job.
Yeah.
Where like all the footage they were showing was not even from like it was just all the footage they were showing.
Season 1 or season 2?
Season 1.
Yeah.
Was all jumping around, and it wasn't even from the stage that they were trying to like
talk about.
Sure. And then season 2 felt a little bit more story based and more about the personal lives and the interpersonal relationships and dynamics within the team.
Yeah.
More so this season.
Yeah, I agree.
And the actual like day-to-day race and events took a little bit of a backseat to
overall story arcs.
People and the story arcs. And I think that was better.
Yeah.
And that's
they sort of gave us a GC story arc. They gave us this French rivalry story arc.
Yeah.
They gave us the Bahrain story arc coming off the tragic death of Gino Mater.
Yep.
And then what else? What was the fourth? I feel like there was one more story arc.
Sprinters arc?
Oh, sure. The Sprinters arc. The always forgettable Jasper Philipsen just being an asshole.
The mobsters of the peloton.
Yeah, on and off the bike. It's so funny that, like, Jasper is the most charming of all of them. And he sucks. But it just seems like he is, I think, just like the nature of the beast that he's on this team. Because the owners, including Vanderpool, are just, like, absolute trash. And, they just ride so sketchily. I don't care for it.
I don't care for it either.
Yeah.
And I think that they know that that's their image. Yeah. And I think they like that.
Yeah, and they embrace it.
They embrace it, even by how they were answering the questions for
the
documentary.
Right.
And then, obviously, whoever was producing the documentary, like, the lighting of their one-on-one interviews and the background music of those interviews were just like so sinister. Yeah,
it is very reality TV in that way. Like the editing goes so much to it. They are creating this drama. I mean, like Jasper, right? He does ride more dangerously than a lot of other sprinters, but there are other dangerous sprinters around. Like people don't really talk about Groenewegen being a dangerous sprinter anymore, even though he put Jakobsen like in the hospital for quite some time.
Do you think?
He's also not the best.
Has changed since then?
I just don't think he's that good anymore. And because Jasper is the best, that's what's unfortunate. He's the best sprinter, right? I mean, sort of undoubtedly, he's the best sprinter in the peloton. There's a very good chance that he gets the green jersey again, much like he did last year.
Sure.
So there's just a bigger spotlight on him. Yeah. Groenewegen, he was on Jumbo at the time, then went away. He was on Jayco now, right?
Jayco.
And he just is not really there so much. I believe he's going to the Tour, so we'll see.
Yep.
A lot of these big names are going to the Tour, but I don't know. Let's. I guess first things first is like if you haven't watched it, I would recommend watching it, especially if you're familiar with the Tour, just to see like the different perspectives of like how they edit it. There is. Yeah. I think the best way to watch it is the French original with the English subtitles. Is that how you watched it? No, you watched it dubbed?
I watched it dubbed.
Dubbing sucks. I can't believe you watched it.
But it was mainly because like I had to really rush and watch it all within the past 2 days.
You had to listen.
So I kind of had to listen, and I kind of had it on while I was working and not looking at it. So I had to just.
You have to pay attention because you're reading.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't gonna have time for it.
There's a lot
I watched
in
season
French.
1 with subtitles.
Yeah.
But this one I had to just do.
So you watched them pretty quickly?
Yeah, I watched it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I just restarted watching it again. Would you watch it again?
I think I would if I had the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not going to care to.
Yeah, I put it on in the background while like prepping for this. And it was one of those things where like I was totally missing out because I wasn't reading the subtitles. I feel my favorite part was Casper Asgreen. It really was. I really liked that storyline. I liked how he seemed really relatable to me. He was talking about being a weirdo. He was talking about sort of doing his own thing.
Yeah,
and like, definitely. You know what I mean? I felt it seemed like second fiddle in the sort of sprinter journey and like the sprinter story, right? I mean, he didn't win that stage until the very end of the Tour.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't quite Jordi Meus at the end where they were like, oh yeah, by the way, this is Jordi Meus. He won the last stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gave him a little more.
They gave him a little bit more. But
no, it was a good story though, and I like that because he was relatively unknown, at least to me.
Sure,
like going into those bigger.
He was
stages
a classics guy. He hadn't really performed as a sprinter, but he had done well in like Liège and stuff like that. But yeah, he's not.
But it was a good story, and I like that they featured him in that way, and how he kind of has his own training plan.
Yeah.
Does what he does, does his solo rides regardless of the time of year, puts in his work.
Right.
And also, like, he's kind of a different guy.
Yeah.
And he knows he's a different kind of guy.
Right.
And he likes that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of relatable.
Season 1, I think, was a lot of people didn't care for season 1 leaving out Pog, right? At the time, UAE had not agreed.
Right.
So there was basically no footage of Tade in the first season.
Yeah.
UAE did agree.
And it felt very incomplete.
It did.
Because also it was so day-to-day race focused.
Yeah.
And then to not have some
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean, he
major,
was,
a
you know,
lot
in
of the
second.
major players
Right.
being part of the documentary, it just...
So UAE agreed for season 2, but they controlled all the footage, and it still didn't seem cohesive.
They still didn't give that much.
It wasn't cohesive.
No,
it was second thought.
Yeah.
And they were only supplying footage that they had to sign off on everything. That was part of their agreement. And they were going to sign off on all of the footage being used. So there was a chance that like Netflix put something in the cut and then was like, no, not doing it. You know?
I liked how they were able to feature Carlos Rodriguez a little more.
Yeah, he was
get
great.
to learn a little bit more about him on a personal level.
Yeah, he was great.
And I actually did kind of forget about that sort of tension within Ineos along the beginning week with Tom Pidcock and everything.
Yeah, Pidcock going from GC to then having to support C-Rod.
Yeah, and not really wanting
to so much. I think they made that bigger than it actually was.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't
But
think...
it still happened. But they did probably try to make a little bit more out of it than it was.
Well, speaking of making more out of it than it was, listen, I do... AG2R and FDJ. Listen.
Yeah.
The French teams are the least exciting teams. The most exciting French team last year was Cofidis with their first win in, 15 tours. Victor Lafay holding on to that win. They barely skim over that. And they're talking to me about fucking Ben. I like Ben O'Connor.
That's right. That was the tour that this documentary was from.
Yes. But no, instead they're talking...
That was such a massive win that day.
And it's just an argument between those team managers, mostly with FDJ. And then there's a little bit of inside turmoil because, Ben O'Connor, he's Australian. He's not actually French, but he's their GC guy. And then he's like ends up riding for Felix Gall instead because he's not GC anymore. I mean, that happens over the course of 3 weeks. And the Pinot season 1 story was way better than season 2. Season 2 arc just like wasn't.
Yeah, I mean season 2 arc was just to give him his flowers for
which is fine.
Retiring.
I mean, he deserves it, you know.
He deserves it, and I was there to see it. But then the rivalry of the coaches, and then
then it turned into the beer thing.
The beer thing, like oh my god, that was all just news and social media tactics. To take away from other stories. Yeah,
Richard Plugga said that other teams are drinking.
I wasn't there for that. That was such bullshit.
Yeah, it was bullshit.
But I will say, you brought up a good point. For me, a significant pit of it was all that time focused on AG2R and Ben O'Connor.
Was that the biggest story of the whole season?
It felt like it was the biggest story
of season 2.
It was like multiple episodes of like Ben O'Connor just like being a baby.
Oh.
Just like, oh man.
I hate to see these guys throw their bikes around.
He's not young, but he's also not old.
I like him.
He's mid to late 20s.
Mm-hmm. They're having a much better year this year.
It made me like him less.
They're having a much better year.
I thought I liked him. Yeah. That made me like him less. But then the day when Felix Gall won that climbing stage, and Ben was so excited for him and went over to him during his interview and congratulate him. That made me
seem nice,
feel better about him, and just like, okay, he's not just a sore loser and a whiny person.
Right. Yeah. And then I guess there's one more thing that I would like to talk about is the whole Gino Mater thing. I mentioned it before. I personally think they leaned on it like way too much. Like, I feel like they leaned on the
documentary or the team.
No, the documentary. The team can lean on it as much as they want. Yeah. And they can hashtag ride for Gino. And the Bilbao stage was great. And the Mohoric stage was great. And that Mohoric speech was one of the best speeches in all of sports from last year.
Absolutely.
And they edited it down.
They did edit it down.
To 1 minute and 10 seconds. And they cut it. But the best thing about that speech was how raw it was.
Absolutely.
It was raw emotion for 4 minutes. Just leave that 4 minutes in.
I was watching that episode yesterday with one of my good friends who doesn't know anything about pro cycling in that way, and I was just like, wait till his interview comes up. It was like the best thing.
Yeah, it was.
And then we're watching it, I'm like, oh my god, they cut it down. They cut away. And
it just is such a shame. And like I think I mean, what happened to Gino obviously was like awful. But then, you know, they're like including clips of Pidcock being like, I was like one of the last people riding with him. You know, like it just seemed like they were just pulling on heartstrings for ratings at a point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like I thought as much as Bahrain is a questionable sponsor, they are a fun team to watch. And I love Mohoric. He is one of my top favorites to watch, like in cycling these days. And Bilbao is fun too, you know? But yeah, it just seemed so, you can die while cycling. And I think one of the biggest cruxes of this is because it is a TV show, you know, and it needs to have a narrative to it, and it needs to have conflict. And so you're making this conflict, you know what I mean? Like, the tension of cycling being dangerous. And yes, cycling is dangerous. I think there are other ways to go about it, or there are more delicate ways to go about it instead of all about this guy. Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a lot.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right. Like they needed to include it.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a major part of the narrative.
It happened
last
3
year.
weeks before
right
the tour
before.
at Swiss.
You know, obviously it's a massive thing. It's a tragic thing.
Yeah.
No one wants to see that, and so they have to bring it up. But yeah, maybe you're right. There's a fine line there where like they might have been on the wrong side of the line of putting too much on it.
Yeah.
And relying on that narrative to give them that emotional element that they needed for the season, when it wasn't necessarily their place. Like it's the team's place and his family's and his fellow teammates, you know, place to.
Yeah, they even showed
into it.
Like they like went and they showed like Peo training in between Swiss and the tour. You know,
I wasn't sure if he wanted to go.
Yeah, which I guess is valid, you know, but they don't really show anyone else training before.
I think that was fine.
Yeah,
and that was good because that was a way to show the reality through the eyes of a teammate.
And then it led into his stage win, which was early on in the tour, right? Like within the first 5 stages or something.
Peo's?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wasn't it? I think it was, yeah. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I do think it's worth watching. I think its biggest crux is like they're dramatizing things that are not necessarily accurate, but you know, they're trying to make a TV show, so I sort of get it.
Yeah.
And things get left out, and I think leaving out the more, even in season 1, they left out like most of like the when Pog crashed and like Jonas waited and they held hands.
Yeah.
They like left out most of that. I think they barely grazed over. It's the same thing. Like that was one of the best moments. What the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this year's tour real quick.
This year's tour.
There's a lot of exciting things. Rest in peace to Sepp Kuss's 2024 tour. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of news. But
what happened with that?
He had COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so he's not going to be recovered in time or something.
Damn.
And
actually didn't even know that. I've been a little out of the loop.
And I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory that I think COVID is like a very easy excuse in general, just to be like, you get out of things. You know what I mean? Like Larry David should have done an episode of Curb where he's like, I have COVID. And he's like avoiding a social situation.
I'm sure he brought that up.
I'm sure he brought it up in the writer's room. I don't think he did it though, because I've watched all of Curb and I do think it's good. But anyway, I think there might be, I don't know. My conspiracy theory is that Jonas is not in good shape, and Sepp is better off not riding in the Tour and training in a different way in order to to defend the Vuelta in a stronger way.
Do you think that he didn't have COVID, or it was just he did, but it was also a convenient excuse for Sepp to bow out?
Yeah, I don't even think it's relevant whether or not he had it, I guess. I think they're more using it as a crux. Yeah. Because actually it just came out in the news today that Pog had COVID recently, but he had it like early enough for it not to be an issue. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Jonas potentially not being in top form is pretty likely, given that crash that he had this spring. So I don't know.
All right.
So we're hoping for that hat trick, but
what hat trick? Oh, Jonas 3 years in a row. I don't think we can. Like, so a lot of strong teams. It's like the first time all of this, these like big names are going together, right? Pog's going to be there. Jonas is going to be there. Primos is going to be there. Remco is going to be there.
That's correct.
And Wout's going to be there. And Vanderpool is going to be there.
Yeah.
A lot of sprinters.
Yeah.
Cav going after the record. Jasper obviously going to be there. Mads Pedersen is there.
Mm-hmm.
Some good sprint stages. There are 2 TT stages. The last stage is a TT. The very last one, it ends in Nice, not on the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
And they haven't had a... Well, obviously that's huge news because it's not going to be finishing in Paris this year,
right.
But also this is the first TT finish to the Tour since the year that Greg LeMond won.
When he beat
TT.
Bernard Hinault. Yeah, with the first time aero bars. Yeah, he was using aero bars and an aero helmet for the first time, and Hinault was not wearing a helmet at all on his drops. Yeah,
that's right.
Aero King Greg LeMond. Let's make a few predictions before we get out of here. Who do you got for GC?
I want to say Primos. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all about that.
I think he's gonna have the fire to do it.
He looks skinny. He looks like he's at race weight. He looks very svelte. The new Red Bull Bora kits are blue, just like every other kit, but those bikes looking pretty good.
Are they blue? They're not black? They're like a really dark blue?
I think they're a dark blue. I think like it's just like that Red Bull deep blue,
yeah.
I think. And now they're wearing Red Bull helmets.
But I think it would be great. I mean, he's...
Me too.
And where he's at in his career.
Me too. I would love that. I'm all for that. I would
like him to get it.
I want it to be competitive. That being said, this is the year of Pog, and Pog will win. It's the year of Pog.
So you're calling Pog?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm not like going out on a limb calling Pog.
Like if I wanted to be right in my prediction, I would probably... Sure. I should by the numbers, I should pick Pog, as everyone should.
Right.
But
I mean, he's a clear favorite.
I'm going to pick Primos.
I love that. I'm fine with that. You got a prediction for the green jersey.
For the green
Sprinter jersey. Most points in the sprinters competition. It hurts us to say it, so we can skip it.
But I don't even want to say who do I really think's going to win versus who do I want to
win. Who do you want to win?
Let's say Dali.
Arnaud Dali.
Yeah, he's
from Lotto Destiny.
He's kind of...
All right.
He just won his nationals.
He did?
And
he's a Belgian champion.
Yeah, and he beat...
He beat Remco? Did Remco do that? No, I don't think Remco did that.
No, he beat Jasper.
Oh, yeah, right. Also Belgian.
So, I don't know, maybe that he's got the fire.
Yeah. He doesn't have the lead-out train. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe he can... No, he certainly does not compare to Alpecin. He
doesn't have Vanderpool.
But
yeah,
maybe he can just stick on them and then come around and beat Jasper in a couple. I'm
gonna go straight as a straight Trek homer. Now that I'm such a Trek lover, I'm gonna pick Mads Pedersen for the green jersey. I would love to see that.
I like it.
But I feel like Lidl Trek had a great Giro. I feel like their tour is gonna be subpar. And that Alpecin team looks pretty strong. And they're built around that sprint
I don't think
train.
I even looked at the Trek lineup.
Yeah.
I did because I wanted to see if Milan was going to be on it.
Yeah, he's not.
But he's not. It's because Mads there. Mads is there.
What do you got for KOM?
Dude, I don't know. Who do you have?
Jorgensen. My left field prediction is that Jorgensen is on the podium. He gets a lot of time in an early stage in the breakaway. And then later on in the race, Jonas can't hold it up. And since he's in a good position, I mean, most of the time in a race like this, like the Tour, that KOM jersey goes to probably the GC winner. Yeah. Especially if Pog goes off and wins a couple of mountain stages. Yeah. He's going to really finish with that jersey, or Jonas, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would love to see Jorgensen do that. He's had a great year so far.
That would be great.
And I do think... I mean, they call Wout a GC contender. There's a lot of guys on Visma that can be like GC guys, but that's a lot different. You know what I mean?
It's seeming like a pretty stacked, massive sort of GC battle, and they're even a lot of teams are even taking multiple potential GC guys,
for sure,
all to help their top GC contender.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so much of a GC battle this year.
Yeah, you bring a couple options to it. I mean, it's worked out for Visma the last few years.
True. Playing the 2 or 3 even, potential GCs and just see who
I think
works
there's
out for.
I think there's a world where UAE could 1, 2, 3 the podium.
I don't doubt it.
With
the
Pog,
way
Yates, and then either Ayuso or Almeida.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Almeida is sort of not as an exciting rider as Ayuso. He pretty much like rides to his tempo a lot, where Ayuso can like go and like win a stage or something.
Yeah.
Not that Almeida can't. You know,
Almeida's not the most exciting rider.
No.
Even
But
he is extremely strong in the mountains.
He rides to his power, and that would be fun. And then is this
I like him though.
Is this your out of left field prediction right here about Cav? Did you write this down or did I?
Oh, I didn't write it down directly as a out of left field. But it was just something I thought of. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? You want to tell everyone?
Cav's gonna get his
gonna
win,
get the win,
and then leave because he doesn't want to get hurt.
Why would he not want to get hurt?
Because
if he gets the win, he's done. Is he just gonna leave and retire?
Yeah.
You're just gonna leave at stage 6 and retire.
I got it. I hold the record. Now I'm going home to the island.
Okay.
Spend the time with my family.
The Isle of Man. All right, fair enough.
The Manx missile.
Yeah, the Manx missile. All right. Well, such a sad note that we're ending on Cav, but it is a big year for all these names being here.
Big
Cav
year.
being there, he could have the record. All the, hopefully Remco performs. Hopefully Primoz performs. Hopefully it's not just a 10-minute Pog show. But I just want it to be competitive.
I want Cav to get the record because if he doesn't, he's going to keep trying.
He's going to be an old man out there then. He's going to be 45 out there in 10 years?
But I don't want to see him like continually keep trying year after year for the next 5 years if he doesn't get it. And then it just keeps getting harder and harder for him. And it's just like harder and harder to watch because he wants it so badly. Oh. And then he's just each year less and less likely he's going to get it.
So sad.
And then he's going to have to continue bouncing around teams.
Just let him win and be a legend. Everyone thinks he's a legend already.
He is a legend already.
Sure, he's a legend.
Just let him get it.
Sure, he's a legend.
Don't let him get it, but I want him to get it.
The best sprinter of all time. Great. Okay.
I guess really the root of that is he should be gone. He should retire.
Great.
His time has happened.
And just like Cav should retire, this episode is also retiring. Shout out to you, of course, BSP, my podcasting partner in crime.
This episode is retired.
This episode is now retiring. We have to go. We have to get ready to go to the shop ride.
Yes, we do.
I'm watching the clock over here, panicking.
Yeah, me too. My computer's about to die. We got.
Oh my God, I have a charger right here. Brian, thanks for being on the podcast as always. John. Thanks for doing the behind the scenes audio work.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I don't know. I said yeah, so like we gotta get to the next thing.
Yeah. Yep. Next thing, John.
Cycling season is upon us, and like I said, NBX Shop Ride. Go to NBX, check them out. They are the official bike shop of It's Just a Hill. They are doing bike fits. The bike fit video that I did with Ryan getting his bike fit over at the shop is out on YouTube now. You can check it out. Call the shop to book your reasonably priced bike fit. Prices, which I foolishly didn't put in the video. $150 for a road bike or an at-home bike fit. So if you have like a Peloton or a trainer bike, they'll come to your house and do your bike fit.
It's great.
Or $200 for a TT bike fit. A little bit more involved, a little bit more things to adjust. And that's not just like the first visit, right? That's the initial visit, but then like some back and forth adjustments are made and follow-ups and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
And like I said, there's a Thursday night shop ride. That's what we're going to tonight. It rolls out from the shop Thursday nights at 6:15. Sometimes there's cooking out after. We had hot dogs and hamburgers last time, and some drinks that went around, some sodas and some brewskis. And
some drinks that went around.
Yeah, some drinks were passed around.
Hope it wasn't beer because that would hamper the next day's ride.
Well, it depends. Sometimes they say a good carb load after ride will help your recovery, and there's a lot of carbs in an IPA. You don't say. Yep. When
I have a question. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I have a question.
You're just gonna add. I just told you we gotta wrap it up, and you're just gonna add a question.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully quick.
Of course. Yeah.
Why do they call them glizzies?
Oh, I have to tell you when you're older. 200-mile ride, Monday, July 1st. Full details. Hopefully, maybe this episode is out before. I don't mean to say hopefully. No pressure on you. You're doing the one that's editing it. If it's not, no big deal. We just rode 200 miles. If you're listening to this after July 1st. Sloppy John's is August 4th. It's getting closer. That is the yearly It's Just a Hill grassroots gravel grinder. There are now 5 route options. There are 5 route options this year. There's the extra sloppy. There's the full slop. There's the half slop. There's the spicy, which spicy is a new one this year.
This is the chunk one.
It's chunky. A lot of roots, a lot of rocks. Yeah. If you like to ride your gravel bike on mountain bike trails, I know there's some sick fucks out there that like to do that. I think you're twisted, and I'm always bashing my ankles on my pedals because of you, but there's now a route. There's also a 100-mile road route, all road bikes. Actually, there might be about 0.2 of a mile of gravel on that.
There you go.
Actually,
Hope it's sloppy.
There is 0.2 of a mile on gravel on that ride. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I've ridden my...
Do you want me to go out there that morning and spray those sections with a hose?
Just to slop it up?
So they get sloppy?
Yeah, get it extra
Make
sloppy.
them extra sloppy for them?
Yeah, make them extra sloppy. I know how you kids like them extra sloppy.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, there is going to be a T-shirt. There's merch, sloppy merch that's coming out, and it's going to be through Jeff LaPierre at Classic Customs, who didn't do this hat, but he did do this shirt, right? Am I wearing my Finish Line hat?
Yeah.
Just got this hat from Finish Line.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But Jeff made this shirt, and a lot of most of our merch, almost all of the It's Just a Hill merch, has always been through Classic Custom.
I love the merch he's made for us.
And I
normally would be wearing my hat right now.
Yeah.
I wear it almost every day. I was in such a rush to get out of the house, I didn't put it on.
That's okay. And of course, we have group rides going off just about every Sunday. There's a rotating schedule from the 1st to the 4th Sunday of the month. And there are some other rides peppered in. Just keep an eye on the It's Just a Hill Strava page, and that's where we post all of those routes. Thank you again, Brian. Viva La Tour.
Thank you.
Do you have any last minute? I'm going to throw out one last minute wild prediction.
Okay.
Myself. Do you want to do one too for the tour?
I don't have one prepared.
You don't have one prepared.
But if I think of it in time, what's yours?
Vanderpool wins 0 stages. I said that last year. He's going to win that gravel stage, though, so I'm probably wrong. He's going to win the gravel stage. That's actually a real prediction. Vanderpool wins the gravel stage, which I think is stage 9 of the tour.
My wild prediction?
Yeah.
Pog crashes.
Oh,
and he's hurt.
No, don't.
I mean, I don't want it to happen.
My heart.
Yeah, I do have one more final question.
Oh.
Why do they call them glizzies?
I told you. It's inappropriate for the show.
Okay.
Bye.
I'll take it. Bye.
We are It's Just a Hill, a cycling club that promotes inclusion, judgment-free, with no gatekeepers. Focused on creating content from behind the handlebars to in the studio, It's Just a Hill is producing videos and podcasts to spread the message that cycling is for everyone. We are focused on reminding everyone that riding your bike can help you overcome any obstacle, because after all, it's just a hill.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.